Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt and welcome back to another short war video, and today we have very big news out of Ukraine, Russia, and Venezuela, and let's jump right into it. This morning, Russia has declared that the new sanctions against their oil industry is an act of war by US officials, and they vow to escalate strikes in Ukraine dramatically. We've also heard wild news that both India and China have begun suspending Russian oil purchases amid fears of US sanctions, and predictably, this has caused Russian stocks to plunge yet again. We've also gotten very big news that American B-1 bombers are currently en route to Venezuela as Maduro orders his air defense to full readiness on the coast, and some expect strikes could begin very soon as the White House is also set to make an announcement about Venezuela soon, and also Venezuelan elite have been spotted fleeing the country on their private jets. So something is about to happen. So we have very big news today, and let's jump into our first post, which goes to open source intel. And right here, this is our biggest post of the day. Right now we're hearing that B-1B bombers with the call signs BAT-21 and BAT-22 have departed from Florida, flying through the Bahamas toward the Caribbean, and they are supported by 3 KC-135 tankers, the main 11, 12, and 13, and their route suggests a possible approach toward Venezuela. So right here you can see, this is a picture of the B-1B right here, and these are very potent long-range bombers that the US has in its arsenal. So right now we're hearing that 2 of these are on their way down to Venezuela, so we might be seeing maybe a training run with this, or this could be actual strikes that's about to take place in Venezuela today. Right now we simply don't know, but I am hearing rumors that the strikes could take place today, and we are seeing that the White House is set to make an announcement very soon that I'll get to in just a second. So this is a whopper piece of news, and we are watching this extremely closely as today could be the start of strikes against Venezuela, but right now it's uncertain. So watching that very closely. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to FITUX Network. We've also gotten news that OSINT indicates that Venezuela is actively deploying their air defense forces to coastal regions at this very moment, which seems to line up with the B-1B bombers heading down toward Venezuela. And right here you can see some of these images. Right here you can see there appears to be some flat guns on the coast right here, and also some more Venezuelan equipment. Moving on to the next photo here, this one appears to show a missile system, a missile air defense system right here on the coast as well, and here are more photos of the same right here in these next few images. So it does appear that Venezuela is deploying their air defense, which is something we have seen before, but this appears to be a very large deployment of air defense, which is unusual and indicates once again that an attack could be imminent by US forces on Venezuela. So very big news today. But moving into our next post here, this one also goes to FITUX Network. And we can see right here the White House says an announcement on drug cartels will be made at 3 p.m. Eastern according to the White House pool, and also another indicator that something might be about to go down. My speculation is we could see the strikes on Venezuela happen, and then this announcement right here will be the announcing of those strikes that already took place. But once again, it's all speculation. It could be that no strikes happen today. This could be merely some type of training exercise, but right now we're seeing a pretty big deal. And as the commenter up at the top right here said, Venezuela is cooked, dog, and it could be cooked actually if these strikes do occur today. But moving in to our next post here, this one goes to FITUX Network yet again, and we've also seen something else wild right here in this post. Because right here we are seeing that 4 private planes have departed Caracas, which is the capital of Venezuela, in just the last 30 minutes alone. And this is probably about an hour ago right now according to our time on the video. And the activities described by flight watchers is something they don't remember seeing ever before. And this comes after news that the president's holding a televised roundtable with his national and homeland security teams at 2 p.m. and that Venezuelan air defense systems are actively moving around, and that B-1 bombers are potentially in the air and on the way to the region. So right now we're seeing private jets taking off, and in my opinion, this is most likely Venezuelan elite getting very scared that strikes are coming, and the elite are leaving the country and getting out of there before anything goes down. That's my guess. So right now we're seeing this, and it's very unusual to see that happening from Caracas. So it's up to speculation what this is, but a very ominous sign indeed that something is about to go down. But moving into our next post here, this one's going to go to open source intel. And let's jump away from our Venezuela news for a second and jump onto our Russia-Ukraine news, because today Russia is acting up tremendously about those sanctions that were put on the Russian Federation yesterday, and we are hearing some wild statements coming out of Russia yet again. Today we are hearing from Russia's Medvedev, the bulldog of Russia as they call him, or the Chihuahua of Russia, depending on how you phrase it. And Medvedev said that Trump's actions, meaning the sanctions toward Moscow, amount to an act of war. So that is what's being tossed around right now, and this is not the first time that Medvedev has called something an act of war. That's not the first time he's done that, but he's allegedly saying that again today. So that once again indicates that something is being discussed in Vladimir Putin's inner circle about a possible war being declared through these sanctions. So very disturbing to hear that, but nothing too crazy coming from this particular guy right here. But we are hearing those wild statements yet again today. So moving into our next post here, we actually have the full post that allegedly came from Medvedev here on Telegram, according to our sources. So let's take a look at the entirety of what he said here on social media. And right here he said, Trump's cancellation of the summit in Budapest, new sanctions against our country from the USA, what else? He said, will there be new weapons beside the infamous tomahawks? And if any of the numerous commentators still had illusions, here you go. The USA is our enemy of Russia that is, and their talkative peacemaker, he's referring to the president by the way, has now fully taken up the path of war with Russia. And yes, he does not always actively fight on the side of the Kyiv regime that is, but this is now his conflict, and not the senile former president, according to him. And of course, they will say that he could not do otherwise, and that he was pressured in Congress, etc. And this does not change the main thing. The decisions made are an act of war against Russia, and now Trump has fully aligned himself with the insane Europe. But there is still a clear plus in the next swing of the pendulum. It is possible to strike with various weapons at the Kyiv hideouts without looking back into unnecessary negotiations, and to achieve victory exactly where it's only possible, and on the ground and not behind a desk, and destroying enemies and not making meaningless deals. So that is what has been allegedly said by the Russian officials today, which this is a wild statement right here and shows you that we were right, and also everybody else has said it as well. The Russians were never looking for peace. They were only looking to use and manipulate U.S. officials into delaying these weapons. So that's what we're hearing today, and not a shock whatsoever, but once again, there it is, wide in the open for everybody to see. But moving into our next post here, this one's going to go to FiTux Network. And right now you might be thinking, is it really true that oil sanctions against Russia could force the Putin regime to act so crazy about this? And we're about to find out why they're acting so crazy. Today we've heard wild news that Indian refiners will sharply cut Russian oil imports to comply with the new U.S. sanctions on Rosneft and Lukoil, according to sources, and the move could help India secure a trade deal with Washington and ease the 50% tariffs on its exports. So it sounds like India might actually be cutting back tremendously on the Russian oil imports, almost down to zero, according to what we're hearing right now. So that is a huge blow to Russia. India was a major importer of Russian oil, and it looks like that could be going away very, very soon, according to what we're hearing right now. So that is definitely a cause for panic for Russia, because that is one of their main markets that they sell their energy products and oil in, and they're about to lose that, according to what we're hearing. But that's not all. We have a bigger story right here in our next post, which goes to FiTux News, and we have heard that Chinese state oil majors have suspended purchases of Russian seaborne oil after the U.S. imposed sanctions on Rosneft and Lukoil, Moscow's two largest oil companies, according to other sources. So another huge blow to the Russian oil industry. And now we can see that not only Indian sources are not buying the Russian oil like they were and might actually eliminate it entirely, we're also hearing that the Chinese state oil majors might do the exact same thing, and we have heard that they suspended seaborne purchases of the Russian oil. So these are huge blows. Like, this is actually an extremely big deal right here. The sanctions were big enough on their own, but now we're hearing that actually multiple different major buyers of the oil are stopping their purchases, and this could really damage Russia really badly. So it's getting to the point where Putin's gonna have to do something to act out, because he cannot just sit here and let his whole economy go down the toilet, or otherwise he's about to get ousted. That's as simple as it gets right here, because I don't know how they're gonna make money if they can't sell their oil to these companies right here. So this is kind of wild, and I'm waiting to see how this is going to play out, because this is very wild right now, and we'll have to wait and see. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to Max25. And oh boy, the Russian stock market is definitely feeling it today, and we've seen that after those major sanctions by U.S. officials were placed on the Russian oil economy, there has been major dips in the shares of those companies that were tariffed and also sanctioned, about 4% each respectively, approximately, and the Moscow Exchange Index fell by 3.21% in total, a pretty big dip, and also shares of other companies have also reacted negatively with a drop of 2.25%. So you can see right here, not doing good. The MOEX, not good right now, and I expect this is going to get only worse. So this is the situation in Moscow right now. It is red alert big time for the economy, and also the frontline situation that Russia is failing at across the board. So I'm not really sure what Putin's planning on doing. We do have a statement coming up from Putin in just a second we're going to jump into, but this is a situation you would not want to find yourself in if you were in charge of a country. country, this is a bad spot to be in. So moving into our next post here, this one goes to Anton Gerashenko. And also it looks like Ukraine has started putting their own sanctions on Russian oil yet again, because we have seen that the Ryazan oil refinery in Russia's Ryazan region has been attacked yet again, and this is a very big attack right here. We have footage literally right from the ground of the actual facility itself, and it is a very big hit. And also we did hear reports of an attack on the military airfield in Ryazan as well. So this poor oil refinery right here, the Ryazan, has been hit a lot. I can't remember how many times it has been hit, but this is a favorite of the Ukrainian targeting. So let's take a look at the video and see how large it is, because it's a big one, and let's take a look. And there it is right there. It is burning down. And it looks like it was a direct hit right in the middle of the refinery equipment right there. So that is a potent hit. And look at the smoke everywhere. I mean, it is just like orange, like everywhere. The smoke's filling the sky. The light is lighting it up. It is like daytime out there with how bright that is. So wild to see that. Once again, Ukraine's putting their own physical sanctions on the Russian oil, and it looks like they are getting hammered today. So Putin surely is in panic mode, and I'm sure he's furious. But moving on to our next one here, this one goes to Tendar. And speaking of sanctions, we've also seen that just in time, the EU Council has adopted today the 19th sanction package against Russia, and it targets the Russian energy and finance sector, as well as the military-industrial complex, and the Council is also strengthening control over the movement of Russian diplomats across the EU, and taking further measures against those responsible for the abduction of Ukrainian children. So really, Russia is getting hit from all angles right now, and now we're seeing the 19th sanction package by the EU, and we're hearing about all kinds of different things that got sanctioned here, but the Russians claim it was only like toilets and bidets and things like that got sanctioned, but there was more stuff that got hit. So another sanction package coming from the European Council, so another big piece of news. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to Status 6 military and conflict news. And what is Vladimir Putin thinking? That's the big question right now. What is he thinking? Because right now he's in panic mode. So this is the statements from President Putin today. He said, "It appears that the Russian-US summit will be postponed." He's very observative. But also, Putin said Budapest was suggested by the American side during a telephone conversation, and it would be a mistake to approach the summit without preparation. Also, the U.S. is trying to put pressure on Russia with new sanctions, but no self-respecting country does anything under pressure. And we spoke with the U.S. president about the impact of the situation with Russian oil supplies around the world on prices, including in the United States, and also Russia's response to potential strikes with Tomahawk cruise missiles on Russian territory would be very serious, if not overwhelming. So I'm sure everybody can tell, but there's a lot of coping by Vladimir Putin in this post right here, and also through his statements, a lot of coping going on. The really important statement he made here is he is once again threatening that Tomahawk cruise missiles are a red line. So he's saying he's going to respond overwhelmingly if the missiles are used on Russian territory, but right now we simply don't know. And also there's been no commitment by U.S. officials to actually send the Tomahawks to Ukraine so far. So we'll have to wait and see how that turns out, if the U.S. is really scared off by that threat or not. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. But this is what generally Putin's saying, and also he is once again rambling, and also he's trying to save face by saying that it was the United States that proposed a summit again. So it is what it is, but in fact, Vladimir Putin was the one that called the U.S. president. So it was Putin doing the Hail Mary. It was not the other way around. But jumping into our next post here, this one is going to go to Max 25 yet again. And also, by the way, many people have been asking about this for, in fact, a couple of days now. We finally have an update about the situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Thankfully, the power plant has been recovered from its 10th complete blackout after power was restored, according to the Ministry of Energy of Ukraine. So it looks like, thankfully, this crisis was averted, because it was about to be a very bad crisis if this situation was not fixed. According to what we know, there was a temporary ceasefire in effect, so that way the Russians could temporarily reconnect this thing to the Ukrainian grid, and it sounds like they reconnected it to the Ukrainian grid instead of the Russian grid, and it is now in working order. So it's not relying on backup generators anymore, and it is under its own power, and it's being cooled. All the fuel that's left and all the spent fuel is being cooled by these generators, and also by these pumps pumping the water into these plants. So it looks like we are good to go at this facility. So this crisis for now is averted, but this is the 10th time it's happened. So it's not new, but hopefully it doesn't happen again anytime soon. But with the Russians in charge of it, you really can't put anything past them. So that is the current situation right now. Well, with that, folks, that is actually our last post of the video. So before you go, folks, smack the like button and also subscribe to the channel channel as well for more daily war updates just like this one. And also, we appreciate you all watching all the time very much, and we appreciate the kind words in the comments as well. And also, if you want to support our channel financially, you can do so on our Patreon page, and the link is in the description below for Patreon, where you can go over there and sign up for a monthly membership, and it could be as little as $5 or $10 a month. Any amount helps the channel tremendously, and we appreciate our Patreon supporters very, very much. But of course, we will see you all at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight on our nightly war news stream, and if there is breaking news or emergency news to cover, we will run a stream early today if there is big breaking news, and we're waiting to see if there's going to be strikes in Venezuela, but right now we do not know that for a certainty. So count on the stream at 10 p.m. Eastern, but if there is something big, we will be updating you on Twitter and also maybe running an emergency stream as well. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, we will see you all tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern. But with that, bye-bye for now.